New Thought Academy presents The Robe, the Ring, and the Shoes, an excerpt from Diagrams for Living, The Bible Unveiled by Emmet Fox. Enjoy.
The robe, the ring, and the shoes. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. And when he came to himself, he said, I will arise and go to my father. Luke chapter 15, verses 17 and 18. As I have mentioned several times, the parable is one of the commonest forms in which spiritual truth is veiled in the Bible, and thus it becomes a valuable diagram for living. It must also be emphasized again that unless one realizes the Bible is a mass of symbolism and allegory, he does not possess the Bible at all. Well-meaning people have read the Bible day after day, year after year, until they almost know it by heart, and yet they have never touched the living thing at all. Most of the criticism leveled against the Bible by modern thinkers is solely due to the fact that they take it literally, whereas divine providence meant it to be taken as parable. Jesus excelled all others in the teaching of truth through parable. It is one of the ironies of fate that, being one of the greatest of all literary men, Jesus Christ never wrote a word except once, when he wrote with his finger in the dust. He was one of the greatest short story writers of all times, and whoever reads one of his parables feels himself touched, because there is a quality in them quite unlike anything else in literature. For instance, the story of the Prodigal Son has no equal. It has color, feeling, lovingness, drama, in addition to the metaphysical truth which we seldom get elsewhere. It seems to sum up the whole story of your life and mine and of all mankind. If all else in the Bible should be lost, the story of the prodigal son would itself give the basic message. Living in patriarchal times was this man of vast property. He had two sons, and as often happens in families, the two sons were very much unlike. Has it ever struck you how Providence has made brothers, and sisters too, so exceedingly unlike in character? Not only unlike physically, one with the Jones cast in his eye, the other with the Robinson walk, but very unlike in personality and character. Providence has arranged it that way because different people have different lessons to learn. They are sent, or gravitate, to certain families in order to learn the discipline that those particular families will give them. In the story, the elder brother realizes his oneness with his father. He realizes the goodness of his father and the goodness of things in general, and he stays with his father. But the younger brother is different. He thinks that he will set up in business for himself. He feels restricted by the ancestral home, and he thinks to himself, now I will go out and do a bit of exploring on my own account. Many of us can identify with his younger son because usually we have the urge to go out and do something new. We do not feel we have to follow in the footsteps of our father. We are not satisfied with the status quo. The younger son came to his father and said, I know I shall get my inheritance someday, but I would like to have it now if you don't mind. The father, being very wise, did not argue with him. The one thing you should never do is preach a sermon to the young people. Let them go to church for that, and at least they won't have a chance to blame it on you. So the father said, very well, here is your share, go ahead. The young man went forth, but when he got out he did not find it quite as he had expected. Things took on a different aspect. He did not start the great work he had planned when he was home. He spent his capital on all kinds of foolishness. He bought a lot of things he did not really want and got no happiness from them. He fell into melancholy ways, because the most melancholy thing in the world is what is called having a good time. How very much suffering is summed up in people having a good time. Finally, his money was gone, his fair-weather friends had left him, and he had lost contact with his father. From a comfortable home and a place of respect in the community, he had descended to being a swineherd, and to the Hebrew there was nothing lower. In a way, it is no worse than having to look after cows or other animals, but to the Hebrew it was a terrible thing because they considered the pig unclean and a curse. So the young son had come down to the very lowest status. There he was in a foreign country among strangers, with nothing left, not even his self-respect. And then something happened. A thought came to him. He found himself saying, "I will arise and go unto my father." Where did that come from? From the prodigal son? No, he could not do it. The only thing he could do was to go into low company, make a fool of himself, and do a thorough job of it. It was the direct inspiration of God leading him to say, "I will arise and go unto my father." Up to that time, he probably had thought over his plight many times, and each time doubts and fears would arise. "I don't think my father would take me back. I don't deserve it. It's too late now." But when he came to himself, and that means coming to your higher self, when he listened to the voice of God, he heard himself saying, "I will arise and go unto my father." So he did. And the Bible tells us that when he got home, the father came out to meet him. That meant more in the Oriental world than it would today. This great landowner was used to servants doing his bidding. He was a patriarch, and people would come to him. But he was so happy to have his son back that when the son was a long way off, the father ran out to meet him, embraced him, and probably kissed him on both cheeks. Then we are told in this wonderful Oriental style how the father gave a great feast for him. A feast meant more in those days than it does today. So many people today are on diets or contemplating going on a diet that we are not so free and easy with our feasts. This feast was the real thing, with singing and dancing and the fatted calf that had been killed for the occasion. Now the elder brother was the good boy of the family. He had stayed home, and of course in consequence of being good and having stayed at home, he felt mighty virtuous. One hesitates to say there is danger in virtue, but there is. The danger is that it makes people feel superior. When you catch yourself feeling very virtuous, be careful, because you are walking on dangerous ground. This brother felt very virtuous, and when he heard the music and saw the lights flashing in the garden, he said to one of the servants, "What is all this?" And the servant replied, "Don't you know? Your brother has come back and we are having a party. I killed the fatted calf this morning." And this virtuous person, the elder son, became very angry. You see, he was not really so virtuous as he thought. Virtuous people seldom are. In his anger, he rushed to his father and said, "What is the meaning of all this? I have been home working all the while, and nothing like this was done for me. I have been looking after my family's welfare, and have got nothing for it but my room and board, but this fellow goes out and misbehaves outrageously, spends all his money, and instead of kicking him, you give him a feast." The father simply replied, "Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine." Now the Bible is written in such a way that no matter on what level of understanding a person may be, there will be a message for him. Jesus told the story in this way, so that those who are not ready for the deeper understanding would still get the lesson that it is never too late to pray. They would realize that they are never so far from God that He will not receive them back. Millions of people are ready for that lesson who are not ready for the deeper thing, but both lessons are true. The deeper lesson is that each one of these sons represents each one of us. The elder son is our higher nature, and the son that went out is our lower nature. As a rule, it is not until we have gotten into difficulties, suffered fear, doubt, defeat, sickness, or positive misfortune, either with ourselves or with someone we love, that we turn and go back to God. Meanwhile, the higher self, the self that knows the truth but sometimes forgets it, that self is still with the Father. Often, like the prodigal son, we believe the truth. We are, for the time being, in our Father's house, but there comes a time when we let the lower self, our selfish desires and emotions, beguile us into going off to a strange country. For a time, the newfound freedom seems wonderful. And then little by little we begin to realize that by leaving the Father, we have cut off our power. We have separated ourselves from the source of our abundance and well-being. Fear and doubt creep in to produce more difficulties. And then, having tried everything else, the thought comes to pray and turn once more to Him, and we say, "I will arise and go unto my Father." To our surprise, God doesn't say, "Well, you have kept me waiting, now I will keep you waiting." No, we find that God comes out to meet us. One of the most beautiful things in the Bible is the statement, "When he was yet a long way off, his father saw him, and had compassion, and ran, and fell on his neck, and kissed him." God is always ready to meet us more than halfway. The fear is dissolved, the problem is solved, and once more we have the sense of unity with Him. That is the story of the prodigal son, and that is really the story of everyone at one time or another. Whenever we have a problem or difficulty, whenever we are fearful or depressed and assailed by doubt, the moment we think, "I will pray, I will treat," that is the voice of God whispering to us to turn to Him. And then perhaps the lower self says, "What's the use? I couldn't demonstrate that now. It's too much to expect. I'm not ready. This is still the husks and the swine." And then the voice of God comes again and says, "Now the accepted time. Now is the day of salvation. Look unto me, and be ye saved, all the ends of the earth." And finally the prodigal comes to himself. He realizes how many there are in his father's house who have bread enough and to spare, and he says, "I will arise and go unto my father. I am not worthy, but I know he will listen. He'll take care of me." And of course, God always does. The people who get peace of mind, freedom, joy, and prosperity are the simple-hearted people. The people who take God at His word without analyzing or subtlety. One can analyze a rose. He can tear it apart petal by petal, but of course he will no longer have a rose. And when you analyze God, you have lost God. When we go to God frankly and sincerely, everything is cleared up. There are no reservations when God works. Divine and complete harmony awaits us when we arise and go unto the Father. But the meaning in this parable goes even deeper than this, because it is a treatise on the nature of man. It conceals the three great issues of life. We are told that when the prodigal son came back, his father not only received him in love and forgiveness, but he turned to his servants and said, "Bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet." It is a wonderful picture of Oriental formality. He wanted all the household to know that his son was re-established. That was the way they did it, with ceremony and feasting and dancing and rejoicing. The three things, the robe, the ring, and the shoes, represent the three great issues of life, thus giving a deep metaphysical meaning to the story. The robe represents the right attitude of mind, right thinking, right knowing, right action. The right attitude of mind means the constructive attitude, the victorious attitude, the attitude of mind that realizes that behind every appearance, no matter how distressing, there is the truth. That is the attitude of mind that heals, for it sees the presence of God everywhere. Elsewhere, the Bible speaks of robes of righteousness, and in Revelation it speaks of those who have come through difficulties by means of prayer as having their robes washed white in the blood of the Lamb. This is a figurative expression, meaning that by turning to God and realizing His goodness and our unity with Him, the lower things in our nature begin to melt away. That is the robe. The next thing they gave the prodigal son was a ring. A ring was put on his hand, symbolizing spiritual unity. That is why a ring is used in marriage. In this parable, the ring symbolizes that we are one with God, and we know it. We no longer have any reason to feel that we are the prodigal among the husks. We are not only received back and made His son again, but we are reunited with Him. We no longer are merely depending upon ourselves, but we know that in Him we live and move and have our being. It means that there cannot be any lack anywhere, for we live in a continuum of ever-present divine abundance, and we bring it into existence by reminding ourselves of our unity with God. Finally, they put shoes on his feet. Feet always represent understanding, and here we have that understanding protected against error and doubt. When we really understand a thing, we are protected against being mistaken about it. For example, when we really know that 2 and 2 make 4, then we are protected against the mistake of thinking that 2 and 2 make 5. So knowledge is protection against misunderstanding. Divine understanding is achieved through right thinking and knowledge of our unity with God. Thus, these 3 great issues give us dominion. Moses, you will remember, was told to take off his shoes when he came into the presence of God. Through long prayer and communion with God, he had arrived at the point of dominion, where he knew that the place whereon he stood was holy ground. He had achieved conscious union with God, where he could take off his shoes. He no longer needed protection for his understanding. He knew there was no place where God is not. Thus he was always standing on holy ground. There is one other point in connection with the story of the prodigal son. It concerns the elder son. Almost everyone understands the younger son to some extent, but the elder son is not understood. Jesus knew this. The mistake of the elder son boils down to this. He feels he is one with the Father, but he misses his own individuality, or is afraid of it. He knows that all that the Father has is his, but he lacks the courage to do anything with it. Although he is aware of his divine relationship and its implication, he never has the gumption to do anything on his own initiative. He is angry when he sees his younger brother wasting his substance, but he never has the spiritual enterprise to use it in a good way himself. So it is with many people, especially those who know something of truth. They sit down quietly with the knowledge of being one with God and then never attempt to demonstrate it. You must use this metaphysical tool that you have forged in consciousness. You must do something with your metaphysical knowledge besides just possessing it. If you think you possess it and do not use it, then you do not really have it. The fault of the elder son is his self-righteousness, and what we might call his negative goodness. It is all knife and nothing to cut. At some point in your spiritual growth, you cease to do the most obvious and wicked things because you are getting higher in consciousness. You understand the law of karma. You know you cannot accumulate understanding as you might pile up dimes in a piggy bank or stamps in an album, no more than the elder son could accumulate wealth in his father's house. Unless you make use of the understanding you possess today, you will not get any more tomorrow. The reason you do not have any more spiritual understanding than you have today is because you did not use what you had to the fullest degree yesterday. Understanding, like all spiritual power, increases with use. That is why Jesus points out in the parable of the 10 talents that the master said to his servant, who had received 5 talents and then doubled them, "Thou hast been faithful over a few things, I will make thee ruler over many things."